Welcome to Wrestling Chat with Friends, the Tuesday show. I'm EJ the Collector, and as always, I'm joined by my tag team partner, who tonight is going as Y, Trish Y. We got TG here. TG, good to see you. Thanks for making it.
Thank you. I hope I'm coming in loud and clear.
Now you come in absolutely loud and clear, much better than before. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We are in a new season in WWE. But before we get into that, I want to bring up something real quick. Last week on the Thursday show, on the AEW show, where I do my Collector's Corner, I showed my newly acquired Christian Cage memorabilia card with a piece of fabric from his uniform that's on the card. And it got me thinking about memorabilia. I also read an article that a item just set a record for the highest pair of shoes ever sold. They were just sold by Sotheby's. TG, you want to take a guess on what those were?
The red slippers from the Wizard of Oz.
Sports memorabilia. I'm sorry.
The shoes that Bob Beeman wore when he broke the long jump record.
That's not bad. Recently sold for just a little over $2.4 million. Were the only pair authenticated by the premier NBA authentication company, Michael Jordan's Jordans that he wore in the last dance of Game 6 before the Game 7. That were sold for some reason. Jordan gave them to a Utah Jazz ball boy who had found a previously lost jacket of Jordan's. This pair are the only known pair in existence. Anyway. Also got me thinking about memorabilia. Do you know what the highest piece of sports memorabilia ever is?
Are we counting cards as well?
This is sports memorabilia. There's a separate category for a collector's item.
So is that a yes or no on cards?
So that's a no.
Okay.
A card would be a sports item. This is sports memorabilia. It's not wrestling related.
I mean, it could be anything. I don't know what people have put up for sale before. O.J. Simpson's Heisman Trophy.
A Jordan jersey signed from Game 1 of The Last Dance went for $10 million a few years ago.
That's surprising. I don't understand why that. I mean, I get it. It's Jordan, but
it's because it's recent, because everything has such an increased value. Do you know the highest price ever paid for a sports collector's item? It was last June.
The number? Or the item?
The item.
Because the answer to both is no. I don't know.
A 9.5 graded Mickey Mantle rookie sold last year for $12.5 million. So all that useless information about people who have just way too much money and time on their hands. If there's a piece of wrestling memorabilia that you could acquire, Tom, what do you think it would be?
I'm not really a memorabilia guy per se, but I would say the real $1 million belt would be pretty cool.
The one that Ted DiBiase actually had made, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very tempting to want to name a belt. The big gold belt. I always were partial to the old NWA United States heavyweight title. I have a replica that's in red somewhere back here. I'd like a pair of old Dusty Rhodes boots, those cowboy boots. I think it'd be pretty cool. A Ric Flair robe, of course. There are people that collect those. But all I have is a Christian swatch of his singlet currently, as of right now. That's all I got. Well, let's talk WWE, guys. And I want to thank everyone out there for joining us. We're on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter at WCWF Pod. Join us, leave messages, leave a comment, tell your friends, everything. Okay, so we're out of WrestleMania season, Tom. Since WrestleMania, we've had 2 Raws and a SmackDown. Since we joined last Tuesday, we've had a SmackDown and a Raw. My question to you, my question to everyone out there, has WWE come out of WrestleMania with a bang or a whimper?
I would say it's a whimper, but with a qualification to it, which is it's not. I don't think it's not simply a matter of creatively they're just going in the wrong direction. I think they've had extenuating circumstances that have sort of shaped the way the shows have gone recently, One is, and I didn't think about this as I was watching the Raw after WrestleMania, but in hindsight, I was like, oh, of course. When you're in the midst of a merger, the last thing you're going to do is add personnel. And so I think that there has been really since the beginning of the year a great slowdown on them acquiring new talent or presenting new talent. And I think that's continuing right now and probably will continue until probably for the foreseeable future until they finish whatever sort of redundancy they're doing on the business side and the creative side. But I think that the other thing, of course, that happened this Monday was apparently insane travel challenges that really left them with like half a roster, which is why like the opening
For
match
Raw
was
yesterday, yeah.
yeah, which is why the opening match was Ray versus Finn Balor, which was kind of I mean, it makes sense because of the situation, but it was kind of strange. I think that the one thing that I would be concerned about moving forward is, and I hate to say this after 2 weeks, but do they have as firm a grip on the Bloodline storyline coming out of WrestleMania as they did for the previous 2 years? And there have been weeks here and there where you've kind of felt like over the last 2+ years where you felt like, well, this wasn't quite as good as the stuff they've done previously. I'm just trying to figure out, given that you didn't see any call-ups, you obviously haven't seen anyone new debut, what is the plan for when is Roman's next title defense and who's his opponent?
Yeah.
So I think that's where you have to kind of get to and figure out. And once you get there, you kind of work backwards, and I think everything will be fine.
I'm willing to, of course, culminating with WrestleMania, and they take that as sort of their start of a new season out of WrestleMania. Yeah, you're not going to judge anything on a couple of weeks, especially with those circumstances. Another concern of mine is, do they have anything compelling really outside of the Bloodline storyline? They could seem to have concluded a few things, sort of. We've seen the way they're setting up the Backlash show. Obviously going to involve sort of centered around the Mysterios, perhaps. And yesterday, Cody and Brock seem to be on a collision course for that pay-per-view as well. Cool that they're going to send Brock to Puerto Rico. And again, I never miss a chance, and I know you don't either, to say Brock is fantastic. Even though I know this isn't your favorite Brock Lesnar ever, he's doing just great work. I never miss a chance to say that, isn't he?
Well, the Brock that he has reverted back to is the Brock that I like. So what he's doing now is this is
what
the
he
Brock
did to Cody. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Brock that's my favorite because it's the only wrestling character that's ever actually scared me. I mean, for real,
Right.
even through the TV, because I'm just like, I'm scared and also scared on behalf of the people that he's manhandling. Because I'm like, you're not. I mean, whoever the dude is, whether it's Cody or fill in the blank, I'm just like, you're in danger right now. I mean,
not only those wrestlers in danger, the cameramen have been in danger before.
Oh yeah, the refs,
announcers have been in danger.
Yeah.
Refs, absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you think with maybe no free agent signings? Oh, and this is what I want to say too. That was sort of has been their policy now for probably going on a year. They sort of like, I don't know if explicitly said, but they're not really acquiring wrestlers anymore. This new NIL world that's who they say they want to get athletes who they can create wrestlers from. I don't think we'll see a ton of huge signings. I mean, Dragon Lee might have been, I mean, you hear about them having interest in some New Japan talent, but if you believe dirt sheets, they were in on Jay White, but Jay White made a different decision. But I think if they were to start signing some of that New Japan talent, that's almost a reverse, of course, of what their plan, I think, was last year.
Yeah, and I think what changed, though, in the last few months, as you got into closer to the merger deal, and the merger deal probably became a little bit more real behind the scenes. Obviously, in a situation like that, you're going to want to minimize your costs to make your balance sheet look as good as possible. But prior to that, before things started to get a little hot and heavy behind the scenes on the merger front, Triple H brought back a ton of people that had been cut. I think it was something like 17 or 18 people who got brought back late last year. And then around New Year time, they started to get more into the mode of, hey, we're looking to sell the company. That, Vince came back and they made the public announcement, like, we're looking to sell, or as it turned out, merge with another company. And that was the point where everything stopped. So, like, other than, I think the only people who have come back since January were Nia Jax for one night at the Royal Rumble,
Yep.
and then Chelsea Green. And I think
Yep.
that's it.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think that they are a little bit restricted in sort of what certainly they have. Look, they've got a big roster, and they obviously have people that we've talked about ad nauseum are not being used to their full potential. And they certainly have a lot of different things that they can do creatively now. I personally think, like, we haven't seen yet story-wise something that's really satisfying, or this is really good yet. But what I do think that I like is they have paired up people who haven't been paired up before. So
Okay.
Cody and Brock, Bronson Reed, and Bobby Lashley, and some other folks who are kind of mixing it up a little bit. Of course, complicating this, and I think this is why things are sort of in a holding pattern, and maybe it's been a bit of a whimper since WrestleMania. Another reason is that they also knew behind the scenes, like, we're going to be doing another draft, and so they don't want to get, like, off too far on a feud that's going to simmer for months when they're about to have a brand shakeup. Right now, the brand split between the travel stuff and everything else, the brand split is basically dead. I mean, there's nothing really going on. Guys are appearing on both shows. Doesn't matter. Once they have the redraft, I'm going to be interested to see with Triple H. Obviously Vince is in the background, but Triple H is guiding the week to week, I think, for the most part now.
Oh, TG, you froze up there for a second.
Oh, am I still here? Can you hear me?
We will keep going. Yep, you back?
I can hear you. I don't know.
There you
are.
We good? You froze up for about 15 seconds.
Yeah, so anyway, sorry, I don't know what's going on. But just to summarize, I think that with the draft looming, what's going to be interesting for me to see is how committed they are, what the implications are for a brand. What does a brand split look like in 2023? Is it really going to be, very sort of distinct and siloed products, or is there going to be more back and forth? Is it going to be a little bit softer? And I think the question that naturally connects to that is, are they going to execute their plan to split the world title again?
Right.
And, what does that look like? My guess would be, if they're going to do it, it's going to tie somehow into the brand split. And basically Roman Reigns is going to be told, hey, you have to, you can have both titles, but you got to defend them both separately. That's my guess. And you have to appear on both shows. And maybe he gives one up, maybe he loses one, who knows? But I think that's possibly where we're headed.
We have a friend chiming in on Facebook saying that it's a period right now, and you alluded to it, of maybe office and roster cuts right now. That has happened the last few years around this time. There was that one day where that Black Monday or Black Friday, where like 81 talent was, who knows if we'll see that, how it will get tied. But yes, I think there are some people, I can't speak for executives or office people, but as far as the talent goes, I think it'd be natural right now to worry about, with the cost cutting measure, not just one guy's whim, although now it seems it could be one guy's whim also, but with this merger, will some of this talent that either was acquired when Vince removed himself for a while that Triple H brought back, or new talent that is in NXT who maybe isn't part of their plans in the future? So yes, I think like most companies, there'll be that period. I agree with everything you said about the draft and plans for this. So WrestleMania Backlash will have, like we said, featured with the Mysterios again, and probably Bad Bunny and Cody and Brock. Do you think they have their eggs too much in the Bloodline basket? They've invested over 2 years in this. The Usos were out there last night wrestling the Alpha Academy, seemingly having nothing to do with the Bloodline whatsoever. Solo is taking care of Roman's business now while Roman is not on TV to a moderate degree of success. We heard this week about plans for they reached out to, there was an article I saw about, is The Rock going to think about WrestleMania 40? and a debate whether that ship has sailed or not. So I believe, and you have said this before, there could be every intention for for Roman to hold on to one or both titles all the way till next WrestleMania. Cody ripped his rotator cuff in the gym just working out. What if Roman did that and threw away an accident, everything they've been building towards? Now that could have happened with any storyline, with any talent at any time, but with what they have in this basket on the bloodline and this approaching 1,000 day, and he's looking to set records. What if he has a slip in the shower, man, and he has to just give it up? Like, how devastating would that be when they don't have any other real compelling storylines going on?
I think they would be okay, because the only scenario where it would be, I mean, look, barring something truly catastrophic, like a bad car accident or something like that, I think they would be okay if he picked up some kind of minor injury, because he honestly wrestles so infrequently, which is part of his sort of mystique at this point. The thing that I always was kind of at the beginning of the storyline, what I was a little surprised by was he had so many health challenges, not so many, but he had a specific health challenge around leukemia. And I was like, I guess he must have gotten a really clean bill of health, because otherwise it would be tough, as talented as he is, it would be tough to be like, we're going to commit to you for 3+ years,
Absolutely.
which is what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So I think even if he had a situation where he sprained his ankle or some other minor injury that kept him out for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, I think he would be fine. I think the story would be fine, because he really is at this point someone who is, by design, only, wrestling periodically, which I think is okay. I don't have a problem with that. I think the only challenge I have with it is the same thing I said when Brock was the undisputed champion, which is like, I think it's the virtue of having the two titles is that you can put one of those titles on a guy who's a part-timer but a huge name to drive up certain pay-per-view interest and stuff like that. But then you have the other title to give to a guy who's going to be on TV every week. And so that, I think, would be the only, sort of downside of that. I think they'd be okay.
If they split the title, say at SummerSlam or whatever, and say Cody or Sammy or somebody else gets one of the titles, but Roman has a title going into WrestleMania 40, would you rather see him face Seth Rollins, or would you rather? Oh, who was the other person I just had in mind? Would you rather see him face Seth Rollins, or let's say?
Don't say Bray Wyatt.
I'm not gonna say Bray Wyatt.
I'm hanging up.
I'm done. I'm done saying Bray Wyatt. Would you rather see him? Oh yeah. Would you rather see him face Seth Rollins or Gunther?
Great question. I think the thing with Gunther is you'd have to find a good way to turn him. I mean, presumably Roman would still be the heel. I mean, it's just hard for me to see how he could turn face and keep the title the whole time. That would be
not happening.
Weird. Narratively speaking, it would make no sense. Of those two, I would say the more interesting match is definitely Gunther. Story-wise, it would be way easier to do with Seth. I don't know. There are ways you could turn Gunther face, but I think that would be a tall order.
Okay. I mean, I think the bloodline, they are invested. At some point, they're going to have to sort out how Roman, what Roman wants to do with his cousins. How is Solo going to stick? Which family is Solo going to stick to? So we'll table the bloodline for a second. Let me say this. I did not have a great take last week or great thoughts on that Cena theory, that match. So now I've had another week to think about it. Cena cut a sharp promo on Theory, talking about piping in crowd noise, to get interest with him. Cena had him pinned in the ring at WrestleMania.
Made him tap out.
Right. Pin, tap out, submitted. Referee shenanigans that gave Theory the win, in my opinion, isn't exactly passing the torch. I can't even remember if we saw Theory on SmackDown last Friday. I don't believe we saw him yesterday on Raw. Has this lay down job that Cena came in semi unenthusiastically for Theory elevated him. You know, I mean, I know it's been 2 weeks, but like, is there an increased fervor for now Theory? Because they haven't used him. Might have had a travel issue yesterday, so he very well may have been part of a plan. He's someone who I can see switching over in the draft, like a lot of people I can see moving over in the draft if they want to bring Gunther to Raw, and that'll be that's usually the natural thing to do. Those two mid card titles they often flip flop together, so we can I'll say Theory's likely head to SmackDown. Who knows whose opponents will be there, but is he coming out of WrestleMania? Not the first thought, not even the second thought, which is probably Logan Paul. Not even the third thought. Where are we with Theory? What did that do for him?
I think it was. I think I said this last week. It was fine. I think that Theory is talented enough that he's going to succeed just by virtue of his own abilities. But I agree with you. I don't think. Thinking back on other matches where veterans and or part-timers put guys over, this didn't really follow that same blueprint. Now, granted, he's a heel, so there's a little bit of a tweak there. But even when heels have been put over, I think that you're right that those guys who wound up winning were elevated to a greater degree than Theory was coming out of that match. I think some of that is the match flow because of, as you just pointed out, he taps out and then he gets a pin. There's referee stuff. And part of it was the promo that Cena cut. Look, John Cena is very good, obviously, delivering promos. But the thing about that promo, and I said this at the time, was like, it seems like you're cutting a promo on a person other than Austin Theory. Because some of the stuff he was saying was like, I get it. Like, he's, inexperienced. Is he ready for prime time? But like saying that like they have to pump in crowd noise and that he's not going to know what to do the Raw after Mania. I'm like, there are other guys that you could say that about. That's not Austin Theory. Austin Theory is connects with the crowd. He knows what he's doing out there. So I just thought that was weird because it seemed when Cena usually cuts those kind of promos, I talked about it before, when he did that to Roman Reigns like 5 years ago or whatever it was like he's got a point and Roman is not really acquitting himself well and not really coming back, which underscores the credibility of what Cena's saying. I didn't feel that way about Theory. And so I think that it was bottom line. It was something I think looked better on paper than it did in real life. In real life, it was fine, but there were some weird elements to it. And I agree with you. I don't think Theory got the same kind of bump that other guys in similar positions historically have gotten from that kind of match.
Theory, by all accounts, if you were going to look at the roster right now, seems to be the youngest talent there who has the brightest future, I would say. There are guys who I think still have bright futures, but who might be a little older than Theory. He's young. If you were the president of the biggest wrestling promotion on the planet right now, would you rather have Austin Theory for the next 7 years or MJF for the next 7 years?
It's obviously tough. I would probably take Austin Theory.
Whoa.
And the reason is that I think you can do more things with him. He's obviously, he's good on the mic. He's obviously not MJF good. But not to sound like Vince, but he's a bigger guy. He's a little bit younger. Not that MJF is very young too, but Austin Theory just turned 25. He's so advanced in what he does.
MJF just turned 27. Yep, 2 years.
Yeah, so it's obviously a tough call. They're both great. I would probably take Theory. I think so. Here's the thing. Theory is the kind of guy, and the Facebook user, made a good point here. Theory is the kind of guy that I do think could be a really good face or a really good heel for the company. He could be the number one face, number one heel. MJF can get a positive reaction because people like his stuff so much, but he's a heel, and he's a great heel, a great heel.
We've never seen him as a face, so we don't know how good a face he could be.
I mean, the only stuff we've seen is when he does like the sympathetic thing of how he had it hard growing up, or some sad story about something that, and it's like, so okay. So my rationale here is, as great as MJF is, and I would never take anything away from that guy.
Yep.
If you're talking about long-term stuff, which was the question,
Mm-hmm.
it's not who would you rather have for the next 6 months, which is
Right.
the answer is MJF. Long-term,
Who do you want headlining WrestleMania 45, 46?
Yeah. So versatility is what I'm looking for.
Sure.
Here's an interesting question though. I would. This is a tough call. Don't get me wrong. It's certainly not clean cut.
We're really putting over Austin Theory right now because,
I think he's super talented. And I think the thing about him that really jumps out at me is how advanced how far ahead he is on the learning curve. Like even from when he first came up during the lamentable, not even the Thunderdome era, it was the Performance Center era. He was just a guy. I don't watch NXT, as well documented. So he was just a guy. I was like, what is he doing? He was like one of Seth's sort of disciples. And
he was one of Johnny Gargano's disciples.
Well, no, but when he came up, he came up in the performance, it was like him and Buddy Murphy and Seth were like a group.
Mm-hmm.
And then like that kind of fizzled out. And I was like, oh, okay, he's, he looks like he has a good physique, I guess he's an okay wrestler or whatever. But I've been extremely impressed with them. So here's what I was going to say though. As great as those two guys are, if you said I might take Montez Ford ahead of both of them. I think he is really special and can do a lot of stuff, and it could be a great heel or a great face.
When names like that get brought up, Montez Ford, obviously the folks Carmelo Hayes and NXT right now, the future does seem bright and positive, because in the next few years we are going to lose that sort of crop of mid-card and above talent that's just in their 40s that aren't going to go, and at some point just life moves on, you got to move those others. So guys like him, Grayson Waller, but MJF, Theory, and Montez I think really stand above the rest. A great comments from our friends on Twitter and Facebook too about MJF's Ric Flair, Theory is Hogan ish. Theoretically they both, if both those companies survive, those could be your top guys. Hey, we had a tag team title change last night. If no one talks about it, did it really happen?
I didn't understand last.
The women's tag team titles.
No. I got what you said. I was trying to decipher Cheat's comment. I didn't understand. So I will give them sort of a pass because I know that a lot of stuff was being booked, almost on the fly. Oh, Sting. That's the part I didn't understand. So he said stent, and I was like,
Sting's 100 years old. Yeah, does never move on.
Sting. Ooh. That was the part I didn't get. Yeah.
There's always an exception to the rule, Cheats.
Yeah. I give him a little bit of leeway because of all the craziness that was happening yesterday, but again, I don't really get the point of any of this. I don't get the point of like, okay, why put the tag titles on Becky and Lita, and then none of it really makes sense. And I know that Trish will come out maybe next week and cut a promo explaining everything. So here's the other thing that was occurring to me last night as I was watching this on Raw. I was like, our bucket of heels who need to come out and explain their actions is overflowing.
Yep. It's like, rattle off the list. Who you got? Who needs to do
it? You got Brock, who like nothing has been cleared up about that. We now have Trish.
He's no longer a man of few words either. He comes out and likes to talk now.
Yeah, although I will say I think this version of Brock will talk less, and I think he'll just destroy things. So now we've got two major stars who both are kind of in the same boat, and I'm just like, you can't have two of those at once, or three or four. It's just it's too much to left to the imagination, and it's fine to have one of those to get people to tune in. Like, what's going on? What's going on? But at a certain point, you get enough of those, and it just feels like, is this good mystery writing, or is this just like we couldn't think of anything, and so we're just going to leave a bunch of blank space here and hope it all works out? I don't know. The whole thing is not interesting to me. I don't get the thrown together tag. So I will say this: the one thing that I think I understand about this is that Liv and Raquel winning the titles are just keeping them warm until Ronda is fully ready to go, and then they're going to get squashed by Ronda.
Yes, I think it's easier for various storylines to have Ronda and Shayna take them off Liv and Raquel rather than Becky taking a. I don't think Becky would want to take a loss against Ronda. Not that it's her decision, nor would she be the one like it was last night, the one taking the pin. But Ronda and Becky will meet each other again, but not under that circumstance. So they had to separate that.
So let me ask you this then: where do you think this is? What is the end game here? Is it Lita versus Trish?
Yes, I think it's Lita versus Trish at SummerSlam.
I don't need to see that at this point in 2023.
Good for them. I'm glad they can physically do it. They both have intrinsic value to WWE, but I don't think it's in a feature match at SummerSlam,
especially one-on-one. Maybe a tag
for the demo that they've been courting for years. Do these people even know who they are? They've done a great job explaining it, but there are not as many people like us who saw their main event. And hey, they're legends. They were the first Raw main event for ladies ever. Where Lita managed the Hardy Boys. Lita managed Essa Rios on Heat way back in the day. People who are 13, 14 years old have no idea what that is. But hey, they how much merch do you think they move? Maybe some, but I'd rather see Alexa Bliss, Carmelo, Piper Niven, who was on last night, but get more time. But hey, this is not like a new phenomenon of the WWE having these legends, Hall of Famers. I mean, Edge worked the program. He's been around just as longer than those people have. But yes, I think when you're talking about being enthralled by a 18 to 20 minute match, you might not get that with those two.
Well, here's my thing. It's not even that. My concern is I think like with Edge as an example, again, all due respect, Edge can still go. I think, again, all due respect, I think that Lita and maybe Trish are just kind of. So let's go back to the Sting example. One thing that AEW has done amazingly well, like maybe if I were listing all of the good things AEW has done, this might be number one on the list just from an impressive standpoint, is they have figured out a way to use Sting where Sting is entertaining, is it's organic and it makes sense in the context of what they're doing. And I'm not saying that they are Sting, who is, as Cheatham pointed out, he's well into his 60s or 120s perhaps. But I think that one problem WWE has is when they get these folks, and here's a great example is Goldberg. When they get these folks, they're like, oh, they're a name. Let's just throw them in. Everything will be fine. And it's like, guys, this is, you're kind of messing with safety at a certain point. I'm not saying that's where Lita and Trish are, but what I'm saying is I think that WWE creatively, when they engage these legends, they sometimes put the proverbial cart before the horse, and they're like, let's book these folks, and then just, it'll work itself out. And sometimes it's like, the Lita moonsault is alarming to me, and I am just a little concerned about that.
So we got a Facebook friend who said Becky beating Trish is the payoff. Maybe.
I would prefer that, to be honest.
Would you? I feel like that might be a little bit of a letdown for Becky dispatching of a legend, but who knows? Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to ask you about the women's division in WWE. Where I know you have some desires and wishes for Becky to for Bayley to become a face again. Do you feel a little bit more confident that might be happening after yesterday?
I think we're headed there. I think the unfortunate thing is I just wonder whether we're going to get to the end of that process and we're going to say like Damage Control were sort of the casualties of this. They weren't booked. They were brought back to a lot of fanfare. They weren't booked particularly well.
Came back at what, SummerSlam, right?
SummerSlam, Triple H's first pay-per-view.
Okay.
He brought them back and Bailey as well. Like she had been off for injury and she came back with them. Yeah, I agree. I agree with the Facebook user. Io Sky is very likable and very fun to watch. I worry that like they're going to be sort of I don't want to say sacrificial lambs, but Bailey will become a face and succeed at their expense. I hope that's not the case, but that's the natural story fit. By the way, it occurred to me after we did the show last week, there was one match we forgot to talk about. Do you know what that was at WrestleMania?
What did we not talk about at WrestleMania? We talked about the featured matches: Omos, Brock, Cody, Roman, the Usos, and
I can just tell you.
Yeah, please tell me.
Asuka and Bianca. We didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about the women's Raw World Title match. I think you're right. I love Bianca, and oh no, you know what I said about it? I said it last week talking about WWE's the package they're selling is Roman as your champ, Bianca as your top girl. I think the way they built the storyline, Asuka should have won.
I thought that the flaw in the way they built it was that they didn't do enough to elevate Asuka. They sort of relied on people to sort of remember her NXT run or be familiar with her previous sort of character that she sort of has adopted a little bit in WWE. Yeah. And they were doing a lot of heavy lifting was done by those sorts of memories that probably a lot of people, to your point earlier, like are just like, I know her work on the main roster in WWE, but I'm not familiar with that other stuff. So you gotta show, don't tell. I would have liked to have seen Asuka built up more, but Bianca ultimately wins. So I was okay with the outcome, but I was just like, a little bit of a missed opportunity. How about the fact that I can't remember what the record is, but I did read this after the show. Asuka's like something like 0-5 at WrestleMania. Like she's lost every WrestleMania match she's ever had.
Woof. Future Hall of Famer, Asuka?
Oh, I think so.
I would think so. I mean, there aren't too many who are, Asuka's 0-5 at Mania. Our Facebook friend confirmed that. Well, no, didn't last week you talk about how it made sense that Bianca won because they're doing the reality show with her and Tez?
I don't know. I think that might have been the preview. But anyway, neither here nor there. To bring it back to what we were talking about.
Did you call Bianca in your picks? I believe you did. I think I called Asuka. That was another one I missed.
Yeah. So the thing about Bianca now is we're getting the program with Io Sky to some extent. I don't know if it's going to be a 1 week thing or maybe it'll be extended. Who knows? But I do think that is ultimately going to lead to Damage Control will turn on Bailey. I'm just not sure if it's going to be because Bailey messes something up or they're just evil and they tire of her. But she showed a little bit of just a hints of face type behavior this week. So we'll see.
She did. She was confronted when she sort of came out that she, got herself involved in a singles match to determine a world championship match later. Io and Dakota kind of said, "What about us?" Bailey kind of conceded and said, "Let me go talk to Adam," and got Io Sky in the match, and Io Sky won. Yeah, my prediction is that they get split up in the draft somehow. Bailey did indicate that she kind of got in Adam's ear and said, we need to stick together. I bet they start to stick together, but Damage Control says we need a split from you. We talked to Adam or somebody and we got drafted out, and that's when they beat her down and they'll go their separate ways. Io needs a singles run. Maybe they turn on. I think Dakota's probably the one left out here. I think Io's going to get a run. I think Bailey will always have a run. Dakota will find herself, clawing her way with a lot of other people. Facebook friend saying, why make Asuka the murder clown if she's going to be doing the same performances and lose at Mania? I mean, not wrong. Yeah. It's a great character. That character, Kana, that she had before WWE, that's influential in this current character, was amazing. If you've never seen it, go to YouTube and find it.
The mistake they made, in my opinion, and I agree with the Facebook user, the mistake they made was she re-debuted with that tweak to her character, but they kept her as a face up until like a week and a half or something before WrestleMania. And I'm like, that's dumb. That's dumb. They should. So I mean, she was teaming with Bianca in matches and stuff and against heels, and I just that was, I think, a mistake. But anyway.
Okay, the last topic I want to try and talk about. After WrestleMania Backlash, we're going to have Money in the Bank, right? And that's going to be isn't it going to be Money in the Bank?
I have to look at the schedule.
Let's say it will be Money in the Bank. Who needs to win Money in the Bank the most, and why is it LA Knight?
Oh, he would be a great one, wouldn't he? He would be a really, really good Mr. Money in the Bank.
I can't think of anyone else who needs it more.
Let me just look at the schedule just to confirm this. Okay, so we've got in the very, very compacted WWE pay-per-view schedule, we've got May 6th, Backlash. 3 weeks later, from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, we have King and Queen of the Ring.
That's right. That's right.
And then
that's the non-canon.
Exactly. Non-canon. The Simpsons Halloween episode of WWE. And then we have July 1st is Money in the Bank. And then August 5th is SummerSlam. And Money in the Bank, in case people have forgotten, is in London, which is obviously a big deal.
Big deal.
So your question was Money in the Bank. I think LA Knight would be a great choice. I'm trying to think of who else it could be right now on the roster. So the other thing is, okay, there's a couple different ways you could go with it, but I do think that the draft is maybe going to play into it a little bit, especially if. So the big intrigue on the men's side would be if they have announced we are going to split the titles and the Money in the Bank winner can only challenge for one of the titles. Mm-hmm. That to me is like probably sort of the biggest question related to all that. I can't come up with a name that's better than LA Knight right now. I mean, I think he would be spectacular. Whether he wins or loses, I will just say, please, whoever wins this, do not cash in on anyone other than a world champion. Please, can we just get rid? That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The precedent was finally set. The 16 finally beat the 1, and we had Money in the Bank winners going after titles that weren't the world heavyweight title. So yeah, anything's possible now. If you had asked me at 6 months ago, I might have said Montez Ford, but I think with maybe a little bit of with new tag team champions, they're going to need some constant competition with them. So I think they've put that split possibly on hold for a while. That what I was going to say before was I thought that they had not really teased the split, but there was a few matches where they lost, and it was looking like, okay, this is like laying the groundwork, and then they never did it. And I think the reason why they pulled back on it is because, again, creatively behind the scenes, they're like, we got a draft coming up. We can keep both these guys' faces and just split them at the draft. So I think you're going to see the end of the Street Profits because they're still winning matches, but they are not factoring into the championship picture at all. And so that to me makes the most sense, would be to split them up. If you're going to split them up, do it that way, or turn somebody heel already. But that probably should have been months ago if they were going to do that.
Yeah. Facebook friends talking about LA Knight and Lashley being robbed of their Mania match. Lashley could have been involved in that Miz. Yes. In hindsight, much rather would have had Lashley than Shane McMahon. But I'm not sure I'd rather have Lashley than Snoop Dogg. Kudos to Snoop Dogg. He got a lot of press after WrestleMania for kind of stepping in, improvising, saving the day.
He and Miz are pros. They are pros. Great.
Tell me if you saw, there was video that has been on my Facebook or YouTube shorts showing it was obviously someone who was filming from ringside caught the cameraman who was on the apron kind of getting Snoop's attention and kind of doing this, mouthing the words "punch Miz, punch Miz." So everyone around the ring's earpiece was going off when Shane went down. I'm sure as soon as Jessica Carr, the referee, signaled. They said, "What are we going to do? Get Snoop in there. Camera boy Greg, go tell Snoop," and there's video of him pointing to him. So cool, inner workings, little behind baseball. But Snoop saw that, knew what to do, laid out Miz. Miz took the cue, and they just ran with it. Before we close out tonight, any other takes you got? Anything else really either, grinding your gears or making you really happy with WWE right now?
I think, I mean,
Dom is a huge heel.
Dom is, at this point, I don't even know what to analogize him to. A buddy of mine who's a big baseball fan, I compared him to this catcher in baseball who hit like last year, he hit like 165 or something. And I was like, it would be like if that guy suddenly became a 315 hitter and hit 35 home runs. Like it's like, how could this?
Brady Anderson. He's the Brady Anderson.
Well, no, Brady Anderson had the I don't want to make any accusations here, but yeah, he had the outlier
journeyman outfielder who suddenly hit 50 home runs. Yeah.
But literally, I thought a year or so ago, I was like, this is a waste of a roster spot. That if he were not Ray's son, obviously, they would have somebody else up who would be much more productive as far as advancing storylines, being able to move the show along and get views. Maybe he doesn't even belong in the business at this point. And he has gone from that to being the most over pure heel in the entire company. Without question. Like, they hate him so much. And this is really a true test for WWE crowd. They hate him so much. They get so worked up that they don't even think about chanting what at him. They just boo. They just boo. And it doesn't even matter what he's saying. They will just boo him.
They brought back the a-hole chants, at Dom. Hey, we got producer Cheats in here. Cheats has such a strong Dom Mysterio take that he had to jump in.
Actually, no. I have such a strong Brady Anderson take.
Oh, okay. I figured.
I had to pop in and say,
host of Black Baseball Podcast, chiming in on Brady Anderson.
TG is exactly correct, and he was very diplomatic as he's been all episode today. I'm watching the episode saying Tom is really holding back here on some of these things. Brady Anderson hitting 50 home runs. If that is not what's the word?
Circumstantial evidence of perhaps.
If that is not a call of action to clean up the game.
Yep, seriously.
There's nothing. Not only did he hit 50 home runs, he was racing people in the parking lot. This is very well documented after the game. It's insane. That 50, I loved it as an Orioles fan, but that 50 home run Brady Anderson season was ridiculous and proof that, the game was not on the level, if you will.
If I recall correctly, because I think that was the year, I get 96 and 97 mixed up a little bit, because the Orioles were good both years. My cousin, Mike, pitched for the Orioles in 96 when they went to the ALCS. I think this is true. I think every player in the Orioles starting lineup, every player 1 through 9 hit at least 20 home runs, which is just...
Check the record on that. All
right. Now I got to look it up.
It was 96.
Yeah.
Brady Anderson hits 50 home runs.
Yeah.
The Orioles were loaded. And fun fact, I accompanied you, Tom, to one of those games that came to yours.
Oh, I remember. You went down in the tunnel with us, and we saw Bob Uecker and Joe Morgan walk by down in the bowels of Camden Yards. So on this Baseball Reference that I'm looking at, they do have one guy who I swear I think maybe it was the next year, maybe it was the following season that everybody hit 20.
Ooh, 1 through 9 hitting 20.
No, it's not the next. I'm fairly certain that's true, but maybe there were they're showing a particular lineup. Maybe there were anyway. Not super relevant to wrestling, but yeah.
Yeah, who is the Brady Anderson? Anyway, so yeah, there are developing storylines going into Backlash. There, we are in a new season. We had some great comments tonight from our Facebook friends out there. I hope you enjoyed it. We went 50 minutes tonight. That's not bad. We've got SmackDown this Friday. We're going to see Brock Lesnar is supposed to be there this Friday to address, or are we getting Roman Reigns? Do we know yet? Roman's not going to be at Backlash. He is not going to be part of that. Will we see him on TV at all before that, do you think, or no?
Ooh.
We're just going to have Solo.
Maybe like backstage stuff with the Bloodline if they want to keep that simmering. I think it would be probably not too much of a promotion of him, because if he's not going to be on the next pay-per-view, you don't want to. He takes up a lot of airtime, obviously, with good reason. Yeah. You don't want to spend that much airtime on a guy who you know is not going to be at the next show. One last thing on the draft. So I think that internally, I think the reason for the timing of the draft is they probably think at that point that they will have most of these sort of behind the scenes, like roster cuts and or like that kind of stuff figured out. And I think the reason is because what you may see in the draft this year is not only like NXT guys getting drafted to the main roster shows, but also potentially if you do want to inject a free agent or two, that gives you enough runway to be able to wrap up whatever you're doing personnel-wise in your company, and then say, okay, now we're set where we are. We've let some people go. We have this much payroll, and we do want to make a signing or two, or debut somebody who maybe they've already signed or whatever. So,
well, I just sort of thinking. I think what the draft will be, perhaps the reason we might not have seen these rumored returns come back at WrestleMania or at the Raw after WrestleMania, I think the draft will be the way to reintroduce people who are finally healthy, a la AJ Styles, a la Randy Orton. They've given us Matt Riddle. Okay, it's underwhelming for me and you, but a lot of people like Matt Riddle. But given a handful of extra weeks, because for the next month leading up to Backlash, Cody, Brock, Sammy, and Kevin, some with the Usos, but maybe not. But really, the Mysterio family and Bad Bunny are going to take up a good chunk of your time in the next month. Then you've got the draft, and like I said, if AJ and a returning Edge, Randy Orton, what it sounds like, Shinsuke Nakamura, who's been out for a while, who's going to be back from injury.
Yeah. I think he'll be back. They've already announced he'll be back on Friday, I think.
Perhaps more so than even free agents. Because sometimes the rumor mills get it right. You haven't heard a lot of rumblings ever since the Jay White stuff cooled down. But so the next month we'll be talking about Backlash. We'll probably have takes on Cody and Brock and that violence that's going to occur, as well as the women's division continues developing. So do we answer the question why Trish? Why? It sounds like the answer is going to be because she's going to face Lita at SummerSlam. So.
Yeah, fine. I'm sure I'll watch it.
TG, thanks for joining us. Thank you, all you guys for joining us. You can get us every Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday, we talk about AEW and Ring of Honor and more New Japan. On Twitter at WCWF Pod, on Facebook and YouTube on our pages, Wrestling Chat with Friends. Thanks to Cheats in the Booth, and thank you to the Family Podcast Network. We appreciate the privilege of your time. There's a lot of podcasts out there. We appreciate you choosing ours. We'll see you guys. Let's tap it out. I'm done. I'm submitting. TG.